It's fascinating how Finland often grabs the title of world's happiest country. But like any good mystery novel, it has its shadows. Before you pack your bags and dream of the Northern Lights, there's a deeper story you might want to explore. From tricky language hurdles to housing quirks, there's a whole other side to Finland worth knowing. So let's dive in. 1. High cost of living. Imagine paying 67.5% more for everyday utilities than in New York City. That's insane, right? But that's a reality in Finland. Start with taxes at hand. Whatever amount you earn, you pay more than half of it in taxes. And why is that the case? Well, things like free education and healthcare are funded, so it's not bad entirely, but that's still a huge chunk of your salary gone. And don't even get me started on food prices. A loaf of bread for 2 euros? A liter of milk for 1.5 euros? Eating out? Forget about it. Even a simple meal costs around 12 euros. And if you're thinking of driving, the fuel will cost you about 2 euros a liter. Plus, cars are expensive. A basic Volkswagen Golf is about 28,000 euros. So public transport? Yeah, it's not cheap either. You're looking at 3 euros for one ticket. Compared to New York, the rent isn't too bad though. But don't let that fool you. 900 euros a month for a one-bedroom apartment in the city center is still a pretty penny. And the utilities? The average monthly payment will run you 114 euros. That's just keeping the heat and the lights on, buddy. Now, I know I seem to be painting a pretty grim picture here, but it's not all bad. Despite the high costs, Finns seem to make the most of what they get. They can spend almost as much with their money as someone in New York. In addition, that welfare system means people can access great education, great healthcare, and support if they need it. So even though it might cost an arm and a leg to live there, it seems like there are some things that make it worthwhile. But I'm telling you, I'd have to think long and hard before packing my bags. 2. Hard to find a job. Here's another thing that might make you think twice. You know how hard it can be to find a job in a new country? Well, it seems like in Finland, it's even trickier if you're coming from abroad. According to a report from Yle News in 2021, and it said that although there was a severe shortage of skilled workers in Finland, companies there are not very interested in hiring people from other countries. Can you believe that? I mean, it's like they've got all these openings, but they don't take a chance on someone who's not a local. If you can't speak Finnish, it's even worse. There was a survey of 500 Finnish companies, and about half of them said that they couldn't work in English. So if you're thinking of working there without speaking the language, good luck. It seems like you just have to spend a year or two learning Finnish before you even think about applying for a job. And get this, there was a study in 2019 that showed white Finns got more job interviews, even when everyone in the applicant pool had the same background and language skills. The job market seems tight, especially for foreigners. But hey, I don't want to be all doom and gloom. If you can crack that tight job market and get your foot in the door, there seems to be a lot of potential. Finnish companies are at the forefront of innovation and creativity. And once you learn a language, who knows, you might find yourself making the next big thing in tech or design. 3. Harsh weather. We've talked about the cost of living, the tough job market, but the weather? Brace yourself, my friend. You know Finland's way up north, right? So yeah, the winters are brutal. I'm talking about temperatures that can drop to negative 50 degrees Celsius in the northern part. You'd better pack not 1, but 3 parkas if you're thinking of moving there. Now, being in Helsinki is a bit hot, only down to about minus 30 degrees Celsius. Can you imagine trying to get out in that cold? You'll also get a snowstorm. The snow is so heavy that it usually sticks around from November to April. And even in Helsinki, you see it from December to the end of March. And here's the kicker, those long winter nights. Do you know how in summer, the sun doesn't set for 73 days straight in the northernmost part? Well, the exact opposite is true in the winter. The sun doesn't even rise for 51 days. You are in complete darkness the entire time. Now, it's not so bad in places like Helsinki. But still, the nights are long and bright sunshine is scarce. If you plan to live and work there, you might want to consider getting one of those sunlight-mimicking lamps. Believe me, you'll probably need it. But hey, don't let winter scare you at all. There's also something magical about the Finnish winter. The snow-covered landscapes can be breathtaking, and there's nothing like seeing the northern lights on a clear winter night. What do you think? Could you handle a Finnish winter? 4. Depression. You know, it's kind of weird, but it's also really interesting about Finland. On the one hand, they often rank as the happiest country in the world. But at the same time, there have also been some very high rates of depression and suicide. It's kind of a paradox, isn't it? And you know how we were talking about the brutal weather? Yes, it has a role to play here. I mean, imagine not seeing the sun for weeks at a time. That can seriously mess with your mood. And it's not just me saying that. Some people have a thing called seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, which is basically this kind of depression that comes and goes with the season. About 10% of Finns have it. But it's not just about hopelessness. Because of the weather, it can be difficult to visit people, or do things outdoors, or to get a job. So some people end up feeling left out or stuck, which can make things even worse. However, Finland is doing more to address these challenges. They work to make mental health services more accessible and help people who feel isolated or may be unemployed. Things like outdoor activities and light therapy are also encouraged for people with SAD. And they're trying to create an environment where it's okay to talk about your feelings and ask for help if you need it. 5. Alcoholism. Finland has this reputation for having a very serious issue with alcohol. Approximately 6.7% of Finns struggle with alcohol problems. That is the 12th highest number in the world. Are you surprised? I sure was. So why is this happening in Finland? Well, part of that might be due to their tradition of binge drinking, where people down a lot of alcohol in a short amount of time. I know it sounds wild, but it's linked to a lot of problems, including accidents, violence, and depression. But there's more to it. Finland has a complicated history with wine. They have moved from prohibition to strict regulation, and now thanks to EU regulations, they have seen an increase in cheaper alcohol from places like Estonia. Alcohol taxes were also reduced, making it more accessible. And then there's the weather. Imagine those long, dark winters and how isolated some people can feel. Some turn to alcohol to cope, and who can blame them? But Finland isn't just ignoring this problem. They're working to raise awareness, help those who are struggling, and put some stronger controls on selling ads. They also promote alternatives to alcohol and try to create a culture where it's okay to ask for help if you need it. 6. Hardest language in the world. Man, learning Finnish is hard. I mean, I know languages can be tricky, but Finnish really takes it to another level. So you know how English has some of the same words as other languages, right? Well, Finnish doesn't have that game. It's part of the Finno-Ugric family, which means it has little in common with other languages we have studied. It's like walking into a room and finding out that everyone is speaking in code. But that's not even half of it. Grammar is something else. They have 15 grammatical variables that change how words work. Consider our language and then multiply the complexity a couple times. It can tell you things like location, directions, ownership, and more, all just by swiping a word here and there. And the verbs? Some of them can have over 200 varieties. In addition, you have to nail the pronunciation, using long and short vowel sounds. Stress and tone can also alter meaning. Now, I know this sounds like a nightmare, but there is a silver lining. Most people in Finland also speak English, so if you ever get lost in Helsinki, you can probably get by. But if you really want to immerse yourself in Finnish society and culture, mastering the language is essential. 7. Finding a place to live is hard. If you're still thinking about moving to Finland, you should know that finding accommodation in big cities can be a real challenge. Take downtown, for example. Available homes are generally more expensive and options are limited. Everyone seems to want to live downtown, but there just aren't enough places to go around. Because of this, many Finns seem to end up in tiny houses. If you're trying to save some money, you might want to stay away from downtown or even in a nearby city. Sounds good for the wallet, but it means your daily commute to work might be longer than most. Now, if a big city isn't for you, the suburban housing market is less expensive, and guess what? There are so many options. You can end up with a nice house without breaking the bank. And if you're really determined to live in the city but don't have anything in your budget, you can think creatively. Maybe a small space or something a bit outdoors would work. It's all about letting go and figuring out what's best for you. Finland may have its complexities and a definite dark side, but it doesn't take away from its charm. From stunning landscapes to unique cultures, there is so much to love and explore. Just remember, it doesn't hurt to know all parts of the story, it just adds to the adventure. So, are you packing your bags for Finland, or do you need some more time to think about it? Let us know in the comments down below. Make sure to subscribe so you'll be the first to know about more upcoming content. And buckle up, folks, because there's a lot we have in store for you. See ya in the next one.